everyone, good afternoon. We have a paper of comparative literature and translation studies in which we have this article on translating a Tamil poem by A.K.Ramnujan. This group task is assigned by Dilip Barad sir, and Sneha and me are going to present the small PPT about this article. These are the table of content in which we are going to discuss abstract of this article, comparison of Tamil and English language, key arguments, analysis, 4 things that making translation possible, problems in translation, and conclusion. So first we start with abstract. The article is starting with this question that how does the one translate a poem from another time, another culture, another language. So Ramanujan translated poems from Tamil were written 2000 years ago in a common of South India in a Dravidian language relatively untouched by the other classical language of India, Sanskrit. The subject of this paper is not the fascinating external history of this literature, but translation. The translation of poems from classical Tamil to modern English, the hazard, the damages in transit, the secret paths and the lucky bypasses. The chief difficulty of translation is its impossibility. Frost once even identified that poetry as that which is lost in translation, and this argument also discussed by A.K. Ramanujan. We know now that no translation can be literal or word for word. That is where the impossibility lies. The only possible translation is a free one. What is everyday in one language must be translated by what is everyday in the target language also. And what is eccentric must find equally eccentric equivalents. In this article, Ramanujan took various examples of Tamil poems that he translated into English, and he described difficulties that he faced during translation. Further, we see that there is a comparison of Tamil and English language in this translation process. While translating Tamil poem Enkuru Nuru, he begin with the sounds. He find that the sound system of Tamil is very difficult from English. For instance, Old Tamil has 6 nasal consonants, a labial, a dental, an alveolar, a retroflex, a palatal, and a velar. These are the consonants, and 3 of which are not distinctive in English. Further, Ramanujan asked the question that how shall we translate a 6-way system into a 3-way English system? Tamil has a long and short vowel, but English have diphthongs and glits. Tamil has no initial consonant cluster, but English absorbed in them. For example, school, stretch, splash, strike, etc. And English words may end in stops, as in cut, cup, truck, etc. Tuck, etc. And Tamil words do not. Further, he discusses that it is impossible to translate the phonology of one language into that of another, even in a related culturally neighboring language. Tamil meter depends on the presence of long vowel and double consonant. Can map one system onto another, but never reproduce it. English has a long tradition of end rhymes, but Tamil has a long tradition of second syllable consonant rhymes. End rhymes in Tamil are a modern innovation, just as second syllable rhymes in English would be considered quite experimental. The tradition of one poetry would be the innovation of another. The Tamil sentence is the mirror image of the English one. For example, what is A, B, C, D, E in one would be E, D, C, B, A in Tamil. Tamil syntax is mostly left branching, and English syntax is by and large a right word. Now focuses on the key argument that A.K. Ramanujan has discussed. So first is Evans Pritchard, the anthropologist, used to say, if you translate all the European arguments for atheism into Azande, they would come out as argument for God in Azande. Such observation certainly disabuses of the commonly held notion of literal translation. Uh, Walcott suggests that English does not have left branching possibilities, but they are a bit abnormal. Hopkins and Dylan Thomas used those possibilities stunningly, as we see in Thomas's refusal to mourn the death by fire of a child in London. Both were Welshmen, and Welsh is a left branching language. Hopkins and Thomas's poetry, the leftward syntax is employed for social poetic effect. It alternates with other more normal type of English sentences. In Tamil poetry, the leftward syntax is not eccentric, literary, or offbeat, but part of everyday natural speech. One could not use Dylan is to translate Tamil, even though many of the above phrases from Thomas can be translated comfortably with the same word order in Tamil. Now, further discussion, I would like to call Sneha.
So, in the analysis, the collections and paradigms make for metonyms and metaphors multiple contextual meanings, clusters special to each language, quite understandable into another language like Tamil. Even when the elements of a system may be similar in a two language like father, mother, brother, mother-in-law, etc. In a kinship, the system of relations and the feelings traditionally encouraged each relative are culturally sensitive and therefore part of the expressive repertoire of poets and novelists. Ramanujan took two different poems about love and war and made point that when we move from one to other, we are struck by the association across them, forming a web not only of the Akam and Puram genre, but also of the five landscape, with all their contents signifying moods and the themes and motifs of love and war. Love and war, further he said that love and war become metaphors for one another. In the poem A Leaf in Love and War, we see entwines the two themes of love and war in an ironic juxtaposition. A wreath of Nossi is worn by warrior in a war poems. A Nossi leaf skirt is given by a lover to his Warner three love poem. For example, that God Krishna, both lovers and warriors. Ramanujan take a closer look at the original of Kapilar's poem Erin Kurunuru, and he point out that the word Enai literally in spoken Tamil emo literary mother is a familiar term of address for any woman, here a girlfriend. So Ramanujan have translated it as a friend to make clear that the poem is not addressed to a mother but to his girlfriend. There are four things that makes translation possible: universals, interiorized context, systemicity, structural mimicry. In a universal, it's such a universal did not exist as a volunteer said of God, we would have had to invent them. Universal of structure, in both signifiers and signified are necessary fictions. Indispensable as it's of our fallible and enterprise. interiorized context. In the one is translating also this kind of intertextual web, the meaning making web of the colophons and commentaries that surround and contextualize the poem. In the systemicity, one translate not single poems but bodies of poetry that create and content their original word. In the structural mimicry, that the structures of individual poems, the unique figures they make out of all the given course of their language, rhetoric and poetics become the points of entry. So one attempts a structural mimicry to translate relations, not items, not a single words, but phrase, sequence, sentence, not a material units, but rhymes, not a morphology, but syntactic patterns. uh, in the problems in a translation, that to translate is to metaphor to carry across. On translations are transpositions, reattachments, interpretations. Some elements of the original cannot be transposed at all. One can often convey a sense of the original rhyme, but not the language bound meter. One can mimic level of diction, but not the actual sound of the original words. So in a conclusion, the translation must not be only represent, but represent the original. One walks a tightrope between the two language and from language in a double loyalty. A translator is an artist on earth. Sometimes one may succeed only in representing a poem, or not in closely representing it. At such times, one draws conclusion from parables like the following. Thank you.